All right, we're talking about the Tetris movie, some of the first games I've ever played, Mario games, some game industry problems, and a bunch more of your questions that I haven't seen yet, because this is a Q&A video. If you're new here, I usually try to do these like once a month where I take your questions from the comments of this video, like in the comment section, and just talk about stuff I normally wouldn't talk about in other videos. I also get questions from people who back me on YouTube memberships and Patreon, so shout out to you guys, but that's how this works. If you want me to talk about something for the next Q&A, drop your question in the comments section of this video. Does that make sense? Spiel over. Let's just jump right into the first question. This comes from Will Pitcher, who asks, with Resident Evil 4 Remake, are there any other Resident Evil games you think deserve a remake? I'm currently playing through Code Veronica, and I thought it would be really cool to see the answer is yes. That's actually my pick. Code Veronica, I think, is absolutely worthy of a remake. I think it's also a very important and underrated game in the whole early Resident Evil story timeline before things went way crazy. This fills in a lot of good and interesting blanks, and it helps you get to know Chris and Claire and Wesker a little more, who are very significant characters. So for it to be kind of like this weird side bullet point in Resident Evil history just never really jived with me. Also, it's just a damn good game. It's got compelling characters, cool moments. It's another good mix of like the old school spooky, haunted, tank control Resident Evil stuff, but wild antics of crazy monsters and abominations and umbrella shenanigans and sci-fi. Like it's a perfect mix of that. It's got a really good mood and sense of atmosphere to it, and it's got all the stuff you want from those early Resident Evil games. It's got spooky haunted buildings, puzzles, laboratories, some really, really good enemies, and some incredible like boss monster designs. Like I really like what they did with the Ashfords and all that stuff. I just wanted people to experience that. I'm already talking way too long about this one specific thing, but if anything, I think it would translate over pretty well to a remake. You know, there's nothing too insane in the game that I couldn't see them pulling off in a remake, and it's a good blend of like the old school survival horror, but with a little bit more action to it, which would be good for the current remakes, like how they feel. Code Veronica is really good. You could still play it and access it in a modern way, and most people now, I feel like, shit on the tank controls. Like people just are so angry at Resident Evil tank controls. It makes me so upset. So if you can't handle that, don't check it out. Maybe wait for a remake, but yeah, I love that game. All right, Corey asks, Jake, what do you think of the Tetris movie? I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The music, the scene, the edits, everything was kick-ass. I really liked it. I think it's not going to be something like I remember forever. That's kind of how I've been gauging things lately, but I thought it was like a really light, fun watch that is a pretty simplified but good, compelling way of telling the Wild Tetris Rights story, because it's really a clusterfuck. And I actually think for the story to just focus on Hank and Dimitri, there's still a lot of other stuff missing, but this is arguably the cooler part of the story. And I think to center it around Hank Rogers, who is a really interesting guy in the video game world. Like if you look him up, there's actually like really interesting, weird lore bits about what he has done behind the scenes from the old school video game days. I think centering it around him was really cool because, number one, I love Taron Egerton. Like, I really like that dude. I love Rocket Man. I really love him as Eggsy in XMen. It's like one of my favorite movies. And yeah, he did a really good job. I really like movies where it's like that young, hungry business hustler, storyteller guy trying to make something happen, whether it's like the bad, crazy ways, like, you know, Wolf of Wall Street or Catch Me If You Can. Like, I just like that crazy, like compelling, charismatic person trying to do something, trying to break through with something, and then it escalates into this crazy, chaotic thing that is just like, you can't make that up. Now, there is a lot of dramatization with this. There's some really crazy stuff, but the actual story also has some really crazy stuff that didn't really make it in the movie. So it's interesting to see like what they went with, but I think ultimately it was fun. It was a good time. I can recommend it also to like my parents, my grandparents. My grandma like loves Tetris, and it's good enough to understand the rights back and forth and how complicated and ultimately kind of how boring it can be. They did a good job of actually, you know, getting that across and making it something that you were invested in. And the movie kind of like flew by in a breeze. Also, just a really good period piece. I love the way everybody dressed. I love the attention to detail to stuff like that. The actual computers they used, the cars, just the look of all the places, like especially like Moscow, like it's wild. So yeah, I would say like it's worth the Apple TV Plus, whatever it is, free trial at the very least. It's a cool movie. I really believe that like between this and like the documentary or the book Console Wars, like it really should get people amped up about like reading into the history of this stuff, because there are some wild stories. Redbeard Kingdom asks, obviously Kevin Conroy is irreplaceable, but who would be worthy to take up the mantle as the new voice of Batman? It's a tall order. I mean, there are plenty of people out there already doing a great job that have kind of stood alongside Kevin Conroy. Absolutely, like some really great work. But the one for me that stood out, I always really liked Roger Craig Smith as Batman. He did Batman in Batman Arkham Origins, and I just really, really liked his performance. I talked about that in a whole Arkham Origins video I think I did a while back for Game Ranks. Like, he just kicks ass. I love his voices. But it's also very hard, like, for whoever could come up and take the mantle, like the full official, like definitive, like the voice in your head. That was Kevin Conroy for me and for a lot of Batman fans, right? Like, that was like when you read Batman comics, you hear that voice. I don't know if anyone can really break through like that again. That's like a once in a lifetime. I don't know. Like that's just a big thing. Really, I want to see somebody kind of maybe take it in a different direction and kind of change the conversation, because for so long, Batman, everybody thinks Batman talks like this, where he's rah, or at least he's very strong and he talks like this. I kind of want someone to embrace weirdo Batman. Batman does have a personality. Batman can occasionally smile. Batman is super hyper smart, paranoid, always planned. I think somebody can do some voice work that really reflects that, other than awesome guy. You know what I mean? Gripper says, thanks for the videos. They really help me as I am newer to games. Welcome. The game that got me into video games was Dantes Inferno for Xbox 360. I also really like Darksiders. Do you think they will do a remake continuation of Dantes Inferno? Woo! Dantes Inferno was cool. But Dantes Inferno also feels like it took place in an alternate universe. Like the fact that that game was made, the fact that EA, a corporation, took money to build a universe and a dark, brutal, gritty, hyper-violent game centered around Dante's Inferno, the epic poem, and also like make it gory and metal and like, you know, like with the religious imagery, and also like I think people now would freak out even more. I'm not going to say that like we've regressed as a society or anything like that, but I just don't know if that would work today. Honestly, I would love for them to do it again and not make it like a early God of War game, and do it more of like a horror, like walking simulator weird experience. Like there's so much more that they can actually do with that whole thing. You know, get a little artsy with it. I love that they got early 2000s crazy with it, but you know, what if they changed it up? But like a remake, re-release, I don't know about that. I think EA looks at Dante's Inferno and they're like, we were drunk, we were young. Hey, now before we keep going, big thanks to Factor for sponsoring these videos. Factor, if you don't know, delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. With spring here and things feeling nicer, I'm just trying to eat right. And I'm also, I don't know if you know this, I'm a gamer, okay? And Factor lets me focus on playing games, enjoying myself, and not worrying about what I'm gonna eat next. Factor meals, like I said, show up fresh and they're nutritious, they taste good, and I can just heat them up in the microwave in minutes. So I'm not worried about shopping for groceries or meal prepping, I'm just good to go. They offer keto, calorie smart, chef's choice, and vegan and veggie options, which include seafood, meat, plant-based meals. So there's a lot of choices for ways to eat right and feel good. Not only that, they offer also some really good smoothies that I've been digging, just kind of as like a grab and go type thing. So they have a lot of things. I just spilled it all over me. There is a lot worth checking out. So if you do want to dive in, head to factor75.com and use code ONJAKE50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. So go eat on me, enjoy. Factor75.com. The code is ONJAKE50, and big thanks to Factor for sponsoring these videos. Casas Plays, shout out to him. He does really good Let's Plays and streams on YouTube. I watch him sometimes. Who says, do you have any reading or video suggestions for learning how to write about video games, whether it be for a blog or a script for a YouTube video? It doesn't have to be gaming specific and could just be writing in general. I actually don't. My biggest advice really is so I majored in English for a while, so I guess that helped me. But I also think that just reading and being immersed in other people's writing can help you. That's always kind of helped me. Like, just the more I've read about video games, the more I read video game reviews, the more I read long reads about video games and like a long weird story about a developer or journalistic pieces or not even video game stuff. Just the more I engage and just try and be an active reader and person, it always helps me. It's like an energy bar where I feel like if I haven't read a book or just like a good long article in a while, I find myself getting dumber and having less to say. Does that make sense? So I would say just be in it, be reading, read console wars, like read video game themed books. Jason Schreier's books about like inside stories about how some games are made is also really good. Just immerse yourself in words, basically. Be cognizant, be aware of like, not trying to then be too influenced by one person or one writer's specific style of voice. You don't want that to encroach into your own, but just by absorbing a lot has always helped me. I don't know if that's like an arty farty answer. Like, I hope it's not. I hope that's actually useful, but let's move on. Our Peace of Mind says, what do you think of X-Men Children of the Atom? Do you think we'd ever get another one or a remake? Dude, it's crazy that you asked this. And I think I've said this somewhere in another video, but Children of the Atom is the first video game I can remember seeing, like literally, and being like, wow, and just being amazed by it. It was at a pizza place that had like 2 arcade machines towards the back. And that's interesting because that was probably pretty close to when Children of the Atom came out. So for them to have like a fresh, probably like roughly 1995 arcade cab of Children of the Atom. Yeah, 1995 was, I think it was 94 in Japan, 95, early 95 in North America. It blew me away because I was a kid who was already obsessed with X-Men. I had the comic books, I was watching the show, and to see it on screen and like you could like even just seeing the splash screen and showing the characters fighting, like Wolverine fighting Juggernaut, I was like, holy shit, I have to play this. This is crazy. And I remember being obsessed from that day, and I am so grateful for that weird random X-Men game. Tigering66 says, you seem to cringe every time you mention the console wars. Is that because you're an Xbox man and you lost them? Listen, bitch, enjoy your attention. No, I'm not an Xbox person. I'm not really an anything. I don't care. I cringe when I talk about the console war stuff because I find it reductive and annoying. I think there are interesting conversations to have about consumer rights and ownership and even the monopolization within all of this. But when it gets to tribalism and really rooting for one specific thing, it gets weird. And it's like a turnoff for me. I've never really been this way. I was like a PlayStation kid, but then like I flip-flop. I was just desperate to play whatever video games I could. And I wish more people were like that. Not like I wish more people were like me, but I get being invested in one thing and wanting everything to be the best for this thing. But when it starts getting weird and you lose sight of the hobby and what you're actually doing to begin with, which is actually playing the game. The water bottle is like a bad metaphor, but yeah, I don't want to come off like I'm above the console wars. Like, like I say things and I prefer certain things that companies do, but like, just don't be a weirdo. That's like my advice with everything in life. Peyton asks, who has the best mustache in video games? For me, it's Solid Snake. As a diehard Metal Gear Solid fan, when Metal Gear Solid 4 was announced and Snake had a mustache, I was like, guys, I don't know about this. This is freaking weird. But it grew on me. By the end of that game, I was like, I want a mustache. If I could have one at some point, eventually, maybe I will. I don't know. I think Freddie Mercury and Solid Snake are really cool. And also Lieutenant Jim Dangle. Graham says, hey Jake, do you have any hope left for the remakes of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, or do you think that Vicarious Visions being no more is the final nail in the coffin? Unfortunately, my expectations are super low. I do not expect much, but at the very least, I do have weird hope in the fact that Tony Hawk still exists and he has a shit ton of money. So something could happen eventually. I just don't know what. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There are a lot of YouTubers and content creators and streamers and stuff who are making their own games or funding their own publishing companies and stuff like that. I am not on that level. I do not have that level of income to do any sort of investment stuff, but if I ever get to that point, I want to just go to Tony Hawk's house and be like, hey, dude, I have a bunch of money. You have a lot of money. I have video game brain. let's figure this out, dude. That is like the dumbest way to, like, there's obviously so many more complications to that, but like, that's what I would do. I wouldn't be like, I'm a YouTuber, I'm gonna make my own game. No, I'm gonna be a YouTuber and I'm gonna go to Tony Hawk's doorstep and be like, hello, Mr. Hawk, can we make another game, please? I'll help you figure it out. Infinity Creations asks, what would you tell your young viewers who are inspired by the way you conduct your business on YouTube and would like to do the same thing? However, they suffer from anxiety, lack of social communication skills, insecurity, have no idea where to start, what to do, or how to do it, asking for a friend. All right, Advice Corner. I also deal with anxiety. I also had a lot of doubt getting into this, and I also had no experience. I just started doing it. I felt compelled. I just wanted to talk about video games, and I just kept doing it. I used to be shit on camera. Like, you would watch me years and years ago and not want to even hear or see or listen to me. And I'm still not perfect, but I've learned and I've improved by doing. So like, it's like that corny advice, but I say it as like, just do it. Whether it's like you want to start writing something down, start trying to talk to a camera, just do an Instagram story where you're talking to the camera, practice getting used to your voice, talking about a video game or a movie or something you love, just start trying. Also, I would say if there's anybody inspired by how, in your words, like I conduct my business on YouTube, is that like I don't start shit with people. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to clout or get the clout or whatever. Like I want to just talk about video games and just be able to pay my bills. That's literally it. If there's something I don't like, or if I see somebody being shitty, I kind of just mind my own business. Like, understandable, have a great day, you know? If I got beef or I got problems, I tend to just handle that stuff privately. But the drama stuff on YouTube is extremely lucrative. The negativity stuff on YouTube is extremely lucrative. I don't think that's how it should be. That can get you to stardom and, you know, tons of money, of course, but I think just being nice, focusing on your work, minding your own business can go a long way. I'm not perfect. I'm not a saint. Like, we've all learned, we figure these things out as we go, but yeah. Monkey asks, what's your favorite Mario Kart track and Mario game in general? Oh boy, Mario Kart track, I hate all of them because I always lose. I'm like decent at the game, but like I still end up getting my ass beat by people that just casually play video games. That's bad, right? This isn't like but like, I don't like Rainbow Road. Rainbow Road is aggravating and not fun. And like, even just playing with people like, yeah, let's do Rainbow Road. It's like, no, can we not? I really like the airport level from the newer one. But also Waluigi Stadium. It's a simple one, but it's fun. It's like dirt. It reminds me of like a motocross track. It's got good jumps, good satisfying jumps in those little mud pits. I love it. It's like a boring answer, but that's mine. I just like big jumps. But favorite Mario game in general, I'm basic with Mario, really. I really like Sunshine. I think Sunshine is really cool, from the music to the environments. I thought that shit was a jam. Say what you will about Flood and whether or not that felt gimmicky. I thought it was really cool. As a kid, I thought the game was absolutely amazing. But also, 3 has a soft spot in my heart. That was like the first one I went like really hard on. I had a original NES. I was luckily like, I guess, classically trained. So the NES was my first console. And the original was great and fun, but it was 3 that really kicked off like that little kid obsession with Mario that like everybody kind of ends up having, you know? Which reminds me, I can't wait to talk about the Mario movie. I'm definitely making a video about that soon. You're probably watching this video at around the time the movie is out, so look forward to that. But that is a Q&A. I want to wrap this up. I've took way too much of your time, so I'm going to go. Thank you for your questions. Again, I'm going to get questions for the next video in the comment section of this video. So drop anything you got for me, and of course, any reactions to what I said, or if like you hate me or anything, let's talk. Thanks for letting me talk about weird games. Thanks for letting me get a little personal here. I appreciate it. If you like what I'm trying to do here, just talk about stuff I love and just yap and hang out with you guys. Clicking the like button does help me out. Thank you. But that's it. I'm Jake Baldino. Pizza's on me. Subscribe because video games.